Battlefield, a series synonymous with large-scale battles and tactical squad-based combat, ensuring teamwork for the use of a variety of character classes, each of which designed to come together and work as a single cohesive unit that can take on any foe.
The price we pay for a new world.
Welcome to Battlefield 2042. The release of this game has been an extremely tumultuous one and adds but another title to EA's series of disastrous releases. The game was buggy, cutting features, and the culmination of an ever-growing fear within the Battlefield community at the loss of exactly what a Battlefield game is. And this isn't even the first time. We've had multiple occasions where brand new games have been released over the past couple of years to nothing but a disastrous reception, for the simple reason the game was unfinished. Be it that it needed additional features brought in, features that were promised, or that the game didn't work. Now, sometimes this is a simple matter of content, whether or not there is enough in the game really to justify having it. Something we saw over with games like the Marvel Avengers, there just wasn't really that much in it to begin with, and slowly new content has creeped in, but it's kind of too little too late. Or it's more of this style with Battlefield 2042, where the game is simply released in a manner that's not acceptable. You only need to look back at some of the Assassin's Creeds to really see just how bad this sort of thing has gotten. Yet despite the pushback from consumers, despite the fact that the consumer market is not accepting this, it seems to be that the industry is really pushing for this release now, fix later style, and sticking to it stubbornly so. And who knows, maybe they're all just playing the long game, but it really does show this divide, this disconnect between the consumers and the provider, in that so many gamers are still thinking about the old ways in which games were released on a disc. You put it into your console and it worked no problem, no need for installation. Any issues with that game were continual, meaning you had to get it right off the bat. But nowadays, with the ability to provide updates, to provide patches, to provide new content, games are being released with less and less of that polish going in and more of a broken state, with some of them not even including the basic features and mechanics promised in the marketing. But now we come to today, a game that continues the 42 legacy. We've had Battlefield 1942, we've had Battlefield 2142, and now here we are with Battlefield 2042, with a Metacritic score of 73% and a Google users score of 39. This game has been absolutely slated by the player base. If we go down, we can see there have been 2,682 ratings, the vast majority of them only at 1 star. Players complaining about bugs, complaining about lack of features, not to mention the open statement of not to buy this until patches and fixes are introduced. And if we actually go over to Metacritic and see we have 45 critic reviews rating it at 73, but over 3,181 ratings, taking it down to 2.3 in our user score. And I can understand why. The game's released with fewer features and more bugs than we've ever seen in a Battlefield game. It's legitimately shocking. So let's take a look at some of these actual reviews. Let's see what people are thinking. From critics, we actually have EGM giving this a massive 100. I can't believe any game on this planet actually deserves a 100 score. That is insane. So apparently this is perfect without a single issue. New specialist system might seem like sacrilege at first, but it opens gameplay opportunities that weren't possible in previous titles. Nope, we're gonna reach that very soon. The whole point of playing a Battlefield game was that you played as a squad. You actually wanted everyone to have their own set and distinct class because it forced you to work together. Yes, it was kind of annoying when I was pretty much always playing as medic and a few games locked me into shotguns, but fair enough, I just stole someone's gun and got on with my life. And when they fixed that and brought in SMGs and assault rifles, yeah, that made up for it, fair enough. But removing any defining characteristics between characters, that's no longer Battlefield. Now you're playing Call of Duty, you're playing every military multiplayer game there is right now. Sure, it sounds nice giving players their own options, but if the point of the game is to force cooperation and to force you overcome the obstacles of your class, basically it just feels like sloppy game design at this point. They couldn't be bothered to balance it, so they let anyone play as anything, and eventually the meta will come in and people sort of balance themselves. And the fact that I can't be bothered to explain it, I think pretty much sums up the amount of effort they put in to make it. But moving on, we have massive, well-designed maps to offer plenty of room for experimentation, and emergent stories and modes are a blast. Okay, I can get behind that. Very buzzwordy, but fair enough. It's all that warfare between Hazard Zone and the expansive Battlefield Portal. Yes, Portal has been an absolute standout of this brand new Battlefield game, which is kind of hilarious because all Portal is a port of previous Battlefield titles, showing that the old games did it better and people are more interested in playing them than the new one. It's kind of like shooting yourself in the foot to express how good that is. And to then say that it's a true evolution of the series, pushing back against stagnation? Well, yes, looking backwards and picking all the best parts of the best games, fair enough. Though it would be nice if just the whole game was ported. We'd have a lot more to do and a lot more things in it, and I probably would just pick it up straight now. But until then, stay away. But to say that the series has stagnated, fair enough, it definitely has. But let's go down, let's take a look at The Gamer. This is our critic review, giving them 40, so this is the negative end. It's hard to be disappointed with this 2042 offering. You know, when the devs said this is a game to celebrate Battlefield, they stripped away some of the most fundamental elements of the series and added tornadoes and wingsuits to make up for it. It's marketing 101, explosions, tornadoes, and swooping helicopters look great. DICE is one of the best when it comes to post-launch patches, for better and for worse, but if you're on the fence about buying Battlefield 2042, I would just wait. So the reason I wanted to go over this is exactly that. For better or worse, yes, fair enough, companies have gotten better and better at doing post-launch patching and really getting games to work quite well after a year or two. There's actually no real incentive anymore to go pick up a brand new game, because even if it is a good game, it won't be at the start. Essentially, you have to know before the game comes out that not only are you going to like it, but you're going to stick with it. And a game like this, where it will literally live or die on its multiplayer player base, that is a massive gamble to take. And I can understand why so many have gone in uproar about it. Now, these critics have definitely been sympathetic towards the game, with many of them giving it mediocre scores or even some good scores ranging from 5s to 7s, which I have to say, if I ever were to use a metric to actually review a game, I would say the baseline for getting a 5 would be your game works. So that's what we've seen from our reviewers, with many of them being quite sympathetic towards the game, with even the lowest score still giving it a reasonable chance of improvement. However, taking a look over at our user reviews, there's 203 positive, 79 mixed, 1,579 negative. That is not a good sign. Well, their top score, 10. That's that's quite a big jump there. The game gave me 10 FPS with my 1050 Ti, exceeded expectations. That is definitely an impressive frame rate and quite interesting actually. A 1050 Ti, that's still pretty good on modern games. Has potential, released too early for the Christmas cash grab. There's definitely always been a feeling between the Call of Duty and the Battlefield series of rushing to release purely to get into sales periods. And I'm pretty sure I'm safe in saying it to date has never helped the game. You can definitely take it the way of CD Projekt Red, where you're releasing it so late in that honestly a lot of people were beginning to get annoyed, particularly in higher management. But considering how CD Projekt Red basically went from the best gaming developers out there thanks to Witcher 3 becoming practically a joke, it does seem in the world of gaming that there's definitely in need of a shift. Something needs to happen to reintroduce proper conduct for developers. AAA industry is floundering, and I can't help but feel it's the reason why so many people are turning to indie dev games. But that is a complete side note. Taking a look at one of our many 0 scores. Now that is definitely saying something. This is not a Battlefield game. The game strives to be a love letter to Call of Duty, but fails even in that account. There's nothing fun in it, and it is many steps back in comparison with previous Battlefield titles. There's simply no reason to try to help others. Game for lone wolf players who like heroic shoots and for a reason don't want to play Call of Duty or Apex. And this is a sentiment I've seen throughout the many reviews of this game. This is something that many of the Battlefield community have been saying for a very long time. Ever since Battlefield started introducing single player campaigns for that matter. Sure, Battlefield Bad Company 1 and 2 were pretty darn good, but at the end of the day, people play Battlefield to go on multiplayer. They play it, at least on PC, for the huge numbers of players available, all running around a massive map, working together in their teams to conquer the map, hold all of the positions, and drain their enemies' tickets, with each player contributing differently to that effort thanks to the class system. Assault players. Assaulted. I don't know, I never played as one. Engineers worked exclusively to fix things, blowing up the enemy armor and taking care of their own. Snipers, recon were just annoying. And of course, whichever class was in charge of supplying people supplied them. And as for the best of the rest, medic. The many matches I've played from the various Battlefield games, typically the first thing I'd hear when joining a squad was what they needed in the squad. If they didn't have anyone to replenish ammunition, you played as that class. If they didn't have anyone to heal them, you played as that class. And if you didn't, you got flack, and rightfully so, or even just straight up kicked out of the squad. Because the whole point was to be a team player. You don't play this not to be a team player. You play Call of Duty for that. And that rant has gone on way too long, so let's move along. Well, the next thing we see is Battlefield 2042 is now one of the worst reviewed games in Steam history. In DICE's large-scale FPS has racked up nearly 30,000 negative reviews, and that is impressive. It officially released 2 days ago, and it's now one of the worst reviews with over 29,000, and it sits as the 8th lowest rated game on Steam. It is still not as hated as eFootball 2022. That really is a low bar to clear, and given that this is so early into its release, inevitably that's going to keep going down. So coming over onto the main site, this is currently popular, though mostly negative reviews, standing at 42,486 reviews in total with 31,768. They have cracked the 30,000 mark. Congratulations! With 31.7 showing negative and 10.7 showing positive, 1,000 that is. Now obviously I shan't be showing the names of all the people who've written these reviews, though do bear in mind you can go over, it is all open access, it just feels kind of dodgy showing them. If we take a look at some of the options, we have jokes about how it's good that things were delayed for release to make sure it was finished, potential but not there yet, no single player mode, no server browser, no general team or player scoreboard. Yes, that has been a huge one amongst the community, we'll get to that soon. No general chat, only team, squad and party, no TDM, no FFA, no leaning, oh wow. No leaning, peeking out while in cover, no score. They have gone to town on this. How much have they written? Flipping heck. That is a player who does not like the game. Hot darn. See, now this is when you know something's gone wrong. When someone genuinely has taken that much time out of their life to play a game, to find all these issues, to notice all the things that have been removed, all the generic problems with it, as well as just the general nuisances, such as the HUD being a mess and such, you've messed up. What I actually really want to pick up on is the amount of people that have been saying potential, that things aren't finished, that the game isn't there yet, give it patches. Once more, it feels like player bases are constantly at odds. The general gaming public basically has the choice that since the developers are going to be patching things, they are going to be updating them, and so many years down the line, these can be phenomenal games. No one quite knows whether or not to condemn them or not yet, because the games aren't finished. But no game should be released unless it's finished. It's once more something from the dev community, indie dev community, that when talking to them, so many say don't release into early access until you essentially have a finished game, because it's going to be judged. You're going to have YouTubers making reviews of the game based on early access. You're going to have players writing the reviews. You're going to have players finding the game, testing it out, and refunding potentially. Now it can definitely work for you, but if you're giving a broken product, that could be your indie development there and then gone. Whereas these larger scale companies, particularly ones from franchises such as this, where there is a pre-existing and loyal player base, they end up getting more of a pass because they can. They can leave it till later. DICE can leave this till later. They can fix it and they know they will have some players there. But they did this before, and the time before that, and the time before that, all the way back to Battlefield 4, a game that was good, genuinely good, even on release. But there were so many bugs. And it just seems like gaming is reaching the point where there's going to be an impasse, something's going to happen, such as I honestly thought it would be Cyberpunk, that would finally have players saying, this is it, release a game that works or don't release at all. But on the note of Battlefield 4, shall we take a look at the wonderful world of Reddit? And just start off with what is, well, for starters, I will give props, a good video showing what you can do in the game. It is impressive, they've shown off some skill, but mate, this should not exist in a Battlefield game. What the heck am I watching? This is not tactical squad-based combat. This is flying squirrels just owning a map. Anyway, we can already see the memes popping up. I remember what 60 bucks got me back in 2013. Battlefield 4, 10 base maps, 83 weapons, 49 gadgets, 73 attachments, 41 vehicles, campaign, 29 field upgrades, question marks. Commander mode, 7 game modes, 4 classes. Battlefield 2042, 7 base maps, 23 weapons, 16 gadgets, 60 attachments, 15 vehicles, no campaign, no field upgrades, portal and hazard mode, 4 game modes, operators. They set the bar. DICE set the bar. They were the ones that said, this is what we can do, this is what we're capable of. And the crazy thing is, they've gone further in the future, and they've had fun with it. Not to mention, they've included Portal, games from all over time. You could draw weaponry from any point in that period, as well as just make up your own. No one's gonna have a go at you if you're going in the future, or if you're an alternative timeline, it all works. And if you're going to the past or the present, then there's thousands you can pick from. But nope, over time, things shrink. That's how it goes. I don't want to spend too much time on it, for the simple reason this is other people's content, so you should go check it out and give credit where credit is due, especially because even if you're not a fan of the game, even if you don't have any interest at all in Battlefield 2042, it's still pretty funny, honestly. Go check it out, I quite enjoyed it. Not to mention, it's a wondrous rant about the fact that gaming is just slowly dying. Well, last but of course not least, let's go check out Battlefield 2042 on the old Twitter. And of course, without fail, we have lines upon lines of fixes. We have positive reviews, 20 to 42 FPS on a computer. That hurts, man. That actually hurts. And very interestingly, a common response has been comparisons to Vanguard, Call of Duty, with players such as Cronies actually saying, we've moved. And others advertising on the main Twitter page itself, do not buy this game, it's broken. They paid extra to beta test, and it is not Battlefield. And I've got to say, the fact that developers are actively bringing out updates and patches is great. It's genuinely good to see. They are trying to do, really at this point, what is damage control rather than actually, producing a very, very good game like they should have. We can still see some devotion, some care being brought in to try and sort it out. Before we finish, I just want to have a quick look at what actually got me interested in what's been happening, the resentment that's built up within Battlefield 2042. The change of the scoreboard. Now, it's been really interesting actually hearing about how the developers consider this a way to try and remove toxicity from a multiplayer game. First off, that's never gonna happen. And that's not a good thing. That's not a good thing at all. I think that so many games have been destroyed by their communities. Chivalry was exceedingly good. And then just, don't touch it with a barge pole these days. When you're actually trying to deal with this by removing features, you're preventing players from actually dealing with it themselves. You've gone a little too far. Fair enough, it is your game, you have complete control over it, And essentially what game players are doing is renting space within servers. That's the reality of the situation. It does make sense in the idea that if you want people not to do something bad, prevent them from doing it entirely. But removing features from a game to do so just genuinely doesn't make sense. If the developers ever want this to be a competitive game, they need to have some way of tracking. You need to know what your teammates are doing. Are they pulling their weight? 'Cause if they're not, you do want to drop them. You want to be competitive. Not to mention that rather than trying to deal with toxicity that may or may not happen, yeah, fair enough, it almost definitely will, really the developers should be focusing on actually implementing all the different parts of a multiplayer FPS with all the features as well polished as possible, particularly considering that key components such as actually being able to hit what you're shooting at, that kind of seems a little more important to me than doing anything about the community before the community has actually been created. But when some of those features are quite clearly meant to be in the game, particularly for the fact you can actually report abuse on certain mechanics that aren't present in the game, but I guess the option's there, maybe the silence gets to you. Really the focus should be on getting a multiplayer game to release and work, or to be honest, just getting a character to be able to walk across the floor without falling through, and possibly open a door. That could be useful. So just what has actually gone wrong with the game? Well, certainly a lot of it is recoverable. The majority of actual game-breaking problems players have is more to do with things such as the lack of hitboxes, having vehicles being able to fly into buildings and bounce off, having hovercraft hover up buildings? I don't even know what to call that. Basically there's Spider-Man. You can Spider-Man a hovercraft. Now as to how long it'll take for the full updates to come through, to have everything working in a more reasonable manner, who knows? You could be waiting days, weeks, months. Most likely, you're going to be waiting years. That's how a lot of these games seem to work. And during that time, no doubt, they'll have 101 DLCs you can pick up and a ton of cosmetics you can buy your characters to fleece as much money as possible as the game goes on. But really, looking at this, I can't see the incentive as to why anyone would really pick it up in the first place, which is really annoying to say because I am a fan of Battlefield. I like the franchise. To anyone new coming in and to anyone old, there's nothing in here. You're better off playing the old games. Find some private servers, maybe throw some mods on. Go play a decent game. If you want to play this game, go play Apex Legends, because really that's where every single FPS game is going. The fact that you can drop in shouldn't exist. But either way, I have a cold, my throat hurts, I've had enough of this. Battlefield came out and it was buggy. Who'd have guessed it? Hopefully the next news will be a little more interesting. Till then, as always, peace out.